The Washington Post is reporting that Donald Trump and his generals have been having heated debates recently because they have very different ideas of what winning means in the Middle East. Now, as I just spoke about, in fact, the media doesn't talk at all about what winning means, what the definition of winning is in these conflicts. They don't talk about it at all. They barely talk about the fact we're even in a lot of these places. We're bombing 8 different countries. We have 2 full-scale wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. They don't talk about winning. They don't, like, what does that mean? They don't talk about it. It's just an open-ended conflict, and they're doing the propaganda for, you know, the military-industrial complex and the deep state, and it's just, we won't even talk about it. Well, behind closed doors, Trump and the generals have been discussing this issue. And so here's what they say. They say Trump says, quote, wars should be brutal and swift, waged with overwhelming firepower, and in some cases, with little regard for civilian casualties. So that's Trump's idea of war. Now, recently he was saying we're going to be out of Syria very soon. We're going to be out of Syria very soon. He was saying that in some speeches. And he was saying that because, again, in his mind, this is his conception of war. We're going to go in there, carpet bomb everything, destroy everything in fucking sight. Don't care if we kill civilians. Totally fine to kill civilians, and then we're done. We're out of there. Now, of course, his generals, what's their take on it? Now, the mainstream media puts this spin on it like, well, obviously they're more moral because they want to limit the number of civilian casualties. To an extent, that's true. But they don't tell you the other part of the picture. The other part of the picture is they want to permanently occupy these places illegally. They want U.S. imperialism to just be the norm. Just like Lindsey Graham said when he was asked when he was running for president, hey, how do you get out of Iraq? How do you get out of Afghanistan? He goes, you don't leave. You stay there. You stay there. So that's what the general's idea is. They want to, yeah, we're just going to permanently fucking occupy these places, of course. By the way, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When you're a doctor who's a specialist in cancer, everything is going to look like cancer to you because that's your specialty. So when you're in the military and all you know is force, you're going to go, yeah, force is the answer always. When was the last time a general was like, you know, diplomacy seems like a wonderful idea? They don't do that because that's not their bread and butter. So Trump is like, let's just fucking bomb everything in sight and get the fuck out. The generals are like, let's permanently occupy there. And both of those ideas are fucking terrible. Now, they mention here that, well, listen, little regard for civilian casualties is a problem. It's actually worse than that because it's even more direct. Look at this from this piece in the Washington Post. Eric Umansky said on Twitter, the CIA showed Trump video of a drone strike in which they had waited until the target wasn't at home with his family. The president's response was, quote, why did you wait? So, in other words, a guy who bragged on the campaign trail. Now, half the time Trump said, I don't want to get involved in these places. I want to stay home. Let's not do all these adventurous interventions and offensive wars. It's stupid. Let's rebuild our own country. Yes, half the time he said that non-interventionist stuff, which I think is one of the main reasons why he won, actually. One of a few reasons, because on some issues he outflanked Hillary and the Democrats to the left. He seemed more populist in that respect. But the other half the time, he was the most hawkish person in the race. And this is one of those instances where he said, on Fox and Friends, we discussed it. We have to take out their families. We have to take out their families. They say they don't care about their lives. Don't kid yourself. They care about their lives, but we have to take out their families. Because Siri always goes off in the middle of my rants, and it's fucking annoying. So that's what he argued. And now he's doing it. Now he's carrying it out. And here he's saying, when he was presented with the direct evidence of, oh, we waited to try to limit civilian casualties, he's like, why would you do that? Don't wait. Don't wait. So it's exactly what he said on the campaign trail. He said, I don't care about civilian casualties. Now he's letting you know, in conversation with, the really moral people at the CIA, by the way. Like, you think anybody in that room was going to have a serious, deep objection to that? Like, oh, yeah, Mr. President, please. We're the CIA. We care so much about innocent human beings. No, this is the philosophy guiding this administration. And there's been numbers released from Air Wars, which monitors the number of civilian deaths in these kinds of interventions that we're doing around the world. And guess what? There has been a giant increase in civilian casualties under Trump. Now, understand, under Obama, it was no picnic. In fact, 90% of the time, drones killed the wrong people. So that is a giant percentage of getting the wrong people. But with Obama, there were fewer drone strikes. Obama did more drone strikes than Bush. Trump is by far and away doing more drone strikes than Obama. In fact, there was a 432% increase in drone strikes under Trump from Obama. And like he's telling you, I don't care about civilians. I don't care. So we have a word for that when you are doing offensive attacks on countries that didn't attack us, and you are targeting civilians on purpose in some instances. On purpose. So you're doing violence for a political reason against civilians. What's that word again? Terrorism. Now, I know that many people, even people who are, nominally liberal or leftist, they have this mental block when it comes to really being self-critical and really being objective and really applying these terms in a way that makes sense. But I just want you to know that's an irrational bias on your part. Because this is the definition of terrorism. Donald Trump is a terrorist. Donald Trump is a terrorist. And I know that we've kind of carved out arbitrary moral exceptions for the U.S. because we mean well, kind of, sort of, not really. Well, do we? Do we? By the way, even if we did, let's take that argument for a second. Well, we do mean well, so therefore it's a lesser, amount of moral culpability. Well, I've made this analogy before, but so let's say somebody leaves their house and on purpose runs somebody over with their car. You go, wow, that's murder. They had bad intent. And they get a huge sentence, right? Well, now let's change the scenario. Somebody leaves their house in their car, by accident runs over somebody. Oh, okay, well, that's going to be a lesser sentence because it was by accident. Even though in both cases somebody died, it's not the same thing because intent matters. Sure, fair enough. But let's say that same person who did it where it was an accident, where he ran over a civilian crossing the street. What if they did that on Monday, and then they did it on Tuesday, and then they did it on Wednesday, and then they did it 7 times on Thursday, and then they did it 22 times on Friday? Even if you're naive enough to believe it was an accident in every single scenario, at what point do you say, you know what? Even if it was an accident in the scenario, you killed 46 fucking people. So are you as morally culpable, and do you deserve as strong of a punishment as the person who ran over one person on purpose? I would argue yes, if not more, if not a worse sentence, a stronger sentence. And, Noam Chomsky makes this point too, that in some instances what we do is worse because we don't even treat the people who we end up killing like humans. We do it the same way that a sociopathic kid would step on a fucking anthill. Like you step on an anthill and you kill, 100 ants. And you don't flinch. You don't even look at it as, these are victims, or I'm doing this on purpose. Or it's just, it doesn't register at all. It's so irrelevant to you because they don't matter. That's U.S. foreign policy. With collateral damage, that fucking propagandistic term. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They don't even occur to us. They don't even register as human beings. So Chomsky says in many instances that's actually worse than people who kill a smaller number of people on purpose and are saying, I am doing this with malice. Because again, at least in that instance, they are recognizing their victims are human beings and then taking the immoral action. In our case, there's not even a real recognition that the people we're killing are human beings because they're so irrelevant that they don't even fucking register in our mind as human beings. So he's a terrorist. Donald Trump's a terrorist. That's clear. Okay. And we don't realize how extreme this really is. Because if it's any other leader of any other country and they were to make a comment like this, we would literally be discussing regime change. If it's an enemy to the U.S. and their leader says something like this, like, no, we don't care at all. Kill civilians. Yes, do it. We would say that is a terrorist rogue regime and they're ripe for regime change. But when it's us, arbitrary moral carve-out. We're the good guys no matter what. So shut the fuck up. People really need to wrap their minds around how fucked our situation is at the moment. We need radical change in this country from the ground up.